Hello, welcome to Random Offense. I am Ethan Strauss. We will be joined eventually by one Wozni Lambre, the Haitian sensation. We've got a great show for you. We had shocking news yesterday that Steph Curry is going to leave Under Armour, the brand he is most commonly associated with. We've got a range of other great topics, including how the fans of Dallas have fired Nico Harrison. We've got a firing by the mob. I would say a righteous firing. I would say a justified firing, but nonetheless, it appears to be socially driven. And we will get into those topics, but I want to start with another social phenomenon here, social media phenomenon. And I also forgot to mention, you guys can ask questions. You can raise your hand in the chat and do that. I forget sometimes. I get a little bit too, I don't know, in love with the sound of my own voice, as I will do in this monologue. But I'm interested in this dynamic right here. And I want to lead off with friend of the show, Spike Eskin, on a very curious phenomenon in sports and sports award voting. Let's roll that tape. Let's have Spike Eskin. Let's have him talking about what's going on right here and whether awards voting in
I saw that
sports is
Shohei
broken.
Ohtani was the MVP,
Okay.
and it was unanimous. And I didn't think much of it because I really don't think anyone else had a good argument for number one MVP in the National League this year. But then I saw that Paul Skeens was number one for Cy Young. It was unanimous. Christopher Sanchez was number two for Cy Young. It was unanimous. And I started thinking back to the last few years about a question I've asked when we've done NBA draft stuff for the podcast, is we look at all these experts and there is this sort of odd consensus about where everyone is drafted. Maybe somebody has someone one or two spots higher, but it all sort of lines up with one another. And I thought to myself, and I've asked the question, what would everyone's big board be if they couldn't see everyone else's big board? Most likely, we would get more differentiating opinions if there wasn't sort of this fall in line thing. And I think what we're in is this era of consensus of fear. And we see it in art too. I'll get to that in a moment. Before, for voting like this, for MVPs, and what also triggered this was the fact that not only was Ohtani's MVP unanimous, all four of his MVPs have been unanimous. So you're telling one person who voted for the MVP who thought that Shohei Ohtani wasn't the MVP. So it used to be that the MVP or things of that nature, Cy Young, were sort of narrative-based, eye test-based, and maybe traditional stats. And it was a combination of those. Then it swung very hard to numbers. We were in the era of numbers. And the person who won the Cy Young had the highest had the best advanced stats. And we got a guy who won Cy Young with 9 wins. And this happened in the NBA as well, whose VORP was the highest, whose box plus minus was the highest. And now we've sort of evolved past that into a consensus of fear, in which a consensus sort of develops around one player or thing. And if you do not fall in line with that consensus, you are at risk of being vilified for your opinion. So if you vote for somebody else other than Paul Skeens for Cy Young, even if Christopher Sanchez has a higher WAR, you are at risk of being the one or two people who did that, and then your name will be blasted everywhere and you will be vilified for that. And this goes with art too, whether it's the new Fiona Apple album. If you say, hey, I don't really think it's that good. If it's Sinners, you think maybe it was a good movie and not a great movie. And now it's in sports. I just refuse to believe that Michael Jordan can't have any consensus MVPs. LeBron James can't have any consensus MVPs. And Shohei Ohtani has 4. And I can't believe that even though Paul Skeens was the unanimous Cy Young, how could Christopher Sanchez be the unanimous number 2? How can this keep happening? And why is everybody's big board like exactly the same? So that's my little theory. You could say maybe I'm just being a contrarian, which I am, but I also think I'm right.
Oh my God. He's completely right. And it all comes full circle here because I believe Steph Curry was the first unanimous MVP of the NBA. And I think that begat an era of this. I also remember Greg Washburn, a beat writer or some form of local writer, I think out in Boston. He voted for Carmelo Anthony for MVP. He was pilloried. He was destroyed. And that was the end of that. It's all about trying to fit in with the herd. It's all about not trying to have a take that stands out, but trying to shrink and hide from doing something different. Yes, Spike's right. He is a contrarian. Some have accused me of being a contrarian. I know that's hard to believe. I know that's crazy. But it appears that contrarianism itself, even on something as low stakes as who should win an award in sports, has been beaten out of us. I find that to be so interesting. Now, Teutonia World says it's the feminization of groups. I don't know about that. I'm not sure if that's the reason for it all, but I just find it rather interesting. And I want to bring it to Waz's attention when we do get Waz on. I want to get Waz's take about whether we are actually representing the true beliefs when we vote for these awards, or we're trying to fit in with the crowd, or something stranger, something I think actually happens quite a bit, which is that we see what everybody's saying and we try to fit what we believe to what everybody is saying, so we don't get too much. Can I curse on my own thing? So we don't get too much shit. I think that's very, very interesting. Now, let's see about what else we got. And I'm just going to tee up. I'm going to tee up the Steph Curry of it all right here. And I think I don't even need to give Waz too much exposition because he knows what's going on. We're texting with people behind the scenes. We've got some insights into the whole rigmarole. Shocking news reported by Shams Charania yesterday that Steph Curry leaving Under Armour. Now, some of you might not get why that's shocking. That might not occur to you. You might not be sneakerheads. You might not be big NBA fans. But it was rather, let's say, I don't know if I'd say surprising at the time when Steph left Nike for Under Armour, but it became a massive business story. It became a situation where Nike lost out on billions upon billions of dollars as Steph Curry became, and I'm going to say it, the most popular player in the NBA. I think he has been that. I don't think it's been LeBron James. So this was, as Morgan Stanley put it, a potential $14 billion windfall for Under Armour. They were tethered. They were together. Steph got a lifetime deal valued at bajillions or what have you. There's no real official figure on these things. These are not like sports contracts. They don't actually open up the books and show us how much these guys are making. So it was a lot of money, and you would have assumed, you would have thought that this was a lifetime deal. And we're at the end, theoretically, of Steph Curry's career, or at least near it. I don't want to say it's completely the end. So shocking news. Everybody's just curious about it. Everybody's just wondering about it. A lot of people are assuming that he must be going back to Nike, though that doesn't seem to be confirmed at all. It's just all very strange. Let's roll a little explainer for the people on that. I want the explainer from Jacques Slade. I should know, but he is the sneaker man expert. I want a little exposition on that because we will be riffing on this, and I want any questions or comments from the audience as well. Roll it from Jacques.
Seriously, I need y'all to look at this. Under Armour and Steph Curry are going their separate ways. After more than a decade partnership, the Curry brand is breaking free. Now, for sneakerheads and for you basketballers, this isn't just about a player leaving a label. Curry brand launched in 2020 under UA as the signature line for Steph, combining his performance, basketball credibility, and community programs. And now, UA is choosing to refocus on its core UA brand while the Curry brand goes independent. Here's the big piece though. UA just announced it's expanding its restructuring plan, adding up to $95 million in extra charges on top of the originally announced $160 million, bringing the total up to $255 million in restructuring cost. Meanwhile, UA's adjusted operating income outlook for fiscal 2026 is now $95 million to $110 million, slightly higher than the prior $90 million to $105 million. So we're talking real business move here, not just a signature sneaker being retired. For the sneaker culture, the final UA and Curry brand shoe, the Curry 13, is dropping in February 2026 as planned.
Yuck.
After that, you'll see colorways and apparel through October 2026. Then the brand, they move out solo. So if you're a collector, this is your last full UA chapter for Curry gear. That timeline is tight, so get ready. Look, this split gives Curry brand the freedom to own its identity and gives UA a chance to reboot. For UA, the message is we're going back to basics, going all in on our performance DNA. For Curry brand, we're off to chart our own course. It's a win-win on paper, but as always in the sneaker world, the real test will be product, storytelling, and how both sides lean into culture and community. The numbers tell the story. Restructuring bill, big. Income outlook, slightly up. narrative shift, well, that's huge.
I like that we do have Waz on, but he's under the moniker Anthony Mays. I don't know how to Frenchify that to be our Haitian friend. Anthony Mays. I don't even know how to do it. I'm not sure. Let's get Waz on right here. I believe he caught the tail end. Not that he needs any expository. Do we have Waz on, or is he blinked? There we go. There we go. How are you doing?
I'm good. Am I on it? Are we live?
We are live. You are live. Don't say anything
Okay,
too crazy.
awesome.
Although you're doing more independent media these days, maybe you could say something crazy. That's never stopped
No,
us.
no. I've learned my lesson about being candid on the internet. That's just not allowed, and we won't do that anymore.
Oh no, yes we will. For these people, we will. Come
Yes, we
on,
will.
you got to give them something.
For Ethan's show, we will. We'll make an
Oh,
exception.
I love it. Okay, so this is interesting. This is strange. This is strange with Steph leaving Under Armour, and I thought that was a bit of a is it Jacques Slade? I should know this was. I should know how to pronounce that man's name correctly.
You know what's funny? I always, in my head, he's always been Jacques Cousteau,
Mm.
but maybe his real name is Jacques Slade.
I just love. I've got this inherent bias when I have a guess that I agree with what they say to keep things like very improv. And when you said that, I went, "Yeah, of course." And then I thought, "Wait a second,
No,
that's
I think
crazy."
his Insta name or one of his online monikers was Jacques Cousteau,
Oh,
which I thought was funny. Maybe his name is Jacques Slade, but I've always thought of him as Jacques Cousteau.
yeah, no, that makes sense given that he's got the Cousteau moniker on his socials. I thought that great exposition by him, but a little too rosy. I don't know if you caught, but at the end he said it's a win-win for both sides.
There's
I
no
look
such
at it.
thing as a win-win.
I look at it. I go, it's a disaster, or at least an admission of disaster. Under Armour got Steph Curry just
Mhm.
in his prime, lightning in a bottle, and collapsed financially. Funny aspect of this to me, I don't know how much they paid him in stock, but they paid him a lot of stock. And for so many
Mhm.
years, I've been told about the business genius of Michael Jordan, how he told Charles Barkley, look, don't let him pay you in money, get some Nike stock. And Charles Barkley went, man, Michael Jordan, he just made me so much money from doing that. Best advice ever. Steph Curry gets paid in Under Armour stock. I think the Under Armour stock at its peak around 2016 was something like $46, and now it's something like $4. So they paid him. They just paid him all his money that disintegrated into dust.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's a disaster in the terms of these companies and these CEOs and CFOs are supposed to be planning out years in advance, and they sold a vision to their shareholders that they could and would one day be Nike, which was just clearly not true.
Yep. Or didn't
And
happen.
was probably a bit of a mistake to pursue that endeavor as rigorously as they did. But that's not to say that they can't still be successful in, the sports merchandise industry. I just think they tried their hardest to, ascend to the heights of the big two, and they failed. But that doesn't mean they can't have a successful business. To me, I almost look at it like an Android phone, like you tried to be iPhone for years, doing the whole like commercials where they denigrate iPhones and like that's our direct competition and blah blah blah. And then, they've comfortably fallen into a clear like, yo, we're the other phones in the market.
Yeah.
We're not iPhone. We're never gonna be that. We tried, it didn't happen. And, we're still in a good place. We still make money. And I think Under Armour can settle into that. But they were for a while trying to compete with Nike and
Yeah.
Adidas.
Oh, they had a spectacular rise and fall. And I'm interested in that aspect where they had a run of endorsements and endorsers that was historic. At the same time, they had MVPs in NBA and NFL. And I guess we don't really have the golf MVP, but they had Jordan Spieth when he was at his peak,
Mhm.
Cam Newton at his peak, Steph Curry. It seems so plausible that Nike was going to be overtaken. And the crazy thing about this is that Nike hasn't exactly thrived since, but
Right.
Under Armour collapsed harder. Now, some would say there's a political component to it all, to the fraying and
I don't
fracturing
think so.
between CEO of Under Armour Kevin Plank and Steph Curry. I mean, it's a little weird because I saw something recently where Kevin Plank was playing golf with Barack Obama. So, how much could politics be part of
There's
all
no
of this?
politics in business, Ethan. Like, in so much as there are, they're all on the same page. Like when it comes to making money, like there's no left and right divide in money making.
Yeah.
Like in maximizing shareholder profit, there is no Democrat or Republican way
Yeah,
of doing that.
if UA was selling for $100 a share, then
Come on,
Kevin
man.
Plank's politics would look great. I also just don't know how deep. I mean, here's an offshoot topic.
Sure.
I don't know how deep Steph Curry's politics is, but it's confounded because Trump has taken shots at Steph, and then it's a personal thing. So I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know what Steve Kerr would say about politics if it hadn't gotten personal between him and Trump. Maybe all the same stuff. I'm not sure. But
I mean, if I would make a guess, like Steph is a big God guy. He's
mm,
kind of toned it down publicly. He came out the gate like going
you
hard.
think
Like he
playing
was
with
damn near
Kuminga, you think playing with Kuminga made him an atheist? Is that what you're insinuating?
he came out the gate. He came out the gate. You know, he was damn near Tim Tebow when he
I
came out the
remember.
gate. And I think he got some advice like, yo, bro, that shit doesn't play, bro.
Mm.
And he stopped. And I think Steph I think he's savvy enough to not be some Democratic Party apparatchik, but also I don't think his God stuff has gone away. And if you're really into that, you can't really fully embrace what the Democrats are offering to Americans.
That makes a lot of sense. And I think that Steph's level of political involvement, you could just read it perfectly into the last DNC convention where they made a big thing of, oh, he's going to give a speech. Oh, he's going to endorse. And it was him on the video board, literally phoning it in. He wasn't present. He wasn't like his coach doing the night, which Steve Kerr did. It was, yeah, this is who I support. I'm not going to be there,
I
but
bet his wife is a big Democrat.
I'm guessing. I
I
don't know.
I bet anything that I own that lady is a Democrat. She
Okay.
still wears Kamala merch. I bet you.
I mean, I like these sorts of theories, and I go to that as well. It might be unfair, but I saw Amon-Ra St. Brown. He did the Trump dance, Lions receiver, because Trump was in the building, and then he apologized for it and said he didn't mean anything by it politically, and he was
It's a
just having
great
fun.
dance.
It's I wonder, just because I'd seen the receiver documentary on Netflix, I
Mm.
wondered. I don't know if it's his wife or girlfriend or what, but I immediately went, ah, that was her. That was her. I don't know if that's fair. I don't know if that's true, but I immediately made that assumption.
I don't think it's a stretch to say that people's significant others have an influence on what they do in public.
Hmm.
Like, I don't think that's a crazy thing to say.
It's not crazy. So Teutonia World's throwing shots right here in the chat.
What's going on?
He's saying, I hate giving any credit to LeBron. Steph was a phenomenon to himself, but he later got on to play the white hat for the LeBron haters. Steph doesn't matter like that anymore.
I'll never agree with that.
Mm,
I think there were a lot of people who played that role. Funnily enough, D Rose was one of them. When we were in our era of LeBron is evil,
mm.
we anointed D Rose to be the MVP because he somehow was an anti-LeBron. Kevin Durant was an anti-LeBron. Steph Curry became an anti-LeBron, but like by the time Steph kind of became who he was, we were on the downslope of the LeBron hate. But I gotta tell you, Ethan, like there's nothing quite as enduring as LeBron hate. Like,
Mm,
talk to your average Laker fan, and they will tell you about their how conflicted they are about rooting for the guy that has elevated their team because they hate him.
yeah.
Like it's enduring, dude. Like there's something to what to Tony's saying. Like there's something to the idea that LeBron has just been this vector of interest, whether it be hate or love, that is unlike even the Steph thing. But I think Steph has become his own thing. I mean, maybe I'm biased because I've become such a Steph
No,
homer
I've got
when I
I've
started out as a bit of a hater because
I've
of
got a
that white hat
take.
element.
Well, I think the white hat is the problem. I think that's my
Mm.
take on it. I think there's something to Teutonia, some of what he said. I think the NBA is not as hot as it was writ large in 2016.
Yeah,
And it's going to be the opposite of a rising tide floats all boats. But I also think that there's an absence of Steph hate. I think that
there
Steph
is no
had
Steph hate.
haters. That Steph used to have people
He
who
did.
resented him,
He had
people who hated him.
players who
Yeah.
resented him. I don't think the masses ever resented Steph, but players hated him.
I think there were fans too, because there was an element of you're selling this guy to me like he's the greatest thing since sliced bread. And in the finals, I'm not really seeing him come through like that. It's not all adding up. It seems a little bit more style than substance. And I think what ultimately killed a lot of the heat of the Steph phenomenon was what stamped him, was the Boston Celtics finals, was that
Mm.
finals on his own. That took away a lot of it because you couldn't say anything anymore. And he wasn't
Yeah.
like LeBron. He wasn't always in the zeitgeist trying to
Mhm.
get in the zeitgeist. So
Yeah.
pretending that he's reading some book or
Yeah.
watching some movie or trying to get his coach fired or anything like that. And so now it's just, everybody loves Steph. Everybody loves Steph, and the team isn't quite good enough to win a championship. And what are you going to really say about it? And it's a weird, it makes it weird that they would sever ties right now because I don't know what the Steph Curry brand is if we're just talking about the last two years of his career. It's a bizarre business story.
I think I don't know. I think people like Steph, you need to be in business with because he has people who adore him. Like that's to me, that's the number one thing. Like, how do you achieve that? Like I think about Adidas and the signature athletes they have, who are all great NBA players in their own right. When you think of well, not Trey Young anymore, but a Donovan Mitchell or Damian Lillard or an Anthony Edwards, who might be, on his own plane, or James Harden. Like these are great players, but they none of them engender the type of devotion that Steph does. Like
Yeah.
there's something special about that. Like people genuinely are stands of Steph. It's almost like, my lady's here, she's addicted to Beyonce. And when you like look into Beyonce fandom, there's a different level of dedication than I don't know, like Dua Lipa, who's like, very popular, very successful in her own right. But I promise you, her fans don't want to die for her the way Beyonce fans do. And I think Steph has that element. I think he has a core level of devotion that is just it's impossible to manufacture on your own. Like as a company, as a corporation. And so I think that's somebody you should be trying to be in business with.
Yeah, I would think so. I think the story is that Under Armour's business collapsed for non-staff reasons, and now he's
Yeah.
too big of a concern to really be sold by them when they're at $4 a share or whatever. So they can't
Yeah.
do it. They've got to figure it out another way. Now, here's where it gets interesting to me. You would think it's perfect for Nike. They kind of did it for Kobe Bryant, didn't they? Kobe Bryant was Adidas, and then he
Yeah.
becomes this latter career Nike guy. And in theory, they could do it, but this is why this industry interests me. Some of you might be watching or listening saying, I don't care how sneakers are sold or whatever. I personally like it. because it's personalities, it's
Hmm.
human beings as these businesses, it's egos, it's all of that stuff that's not exactly the same as looking at the share price for some steel company. This is a different thing. Nike can't market everybody. They would sure like to, but
Hmm.
they market disproportionately. They have a guy, they have a face. You see that when you go to Beaverton and you see whatever posters they have up there. When you're a guy within those halls, when you are the main guy, you've got a lot of capital and you want to prevent anybody else from being the guy. And it's tough when you're right on the outside looking in, or it can be. I think Kevin Durant, as I've written about, he'd go to them and go, well, why can't I be the guy? And it's just, look, you're just not. You're just not. It's LeBron James. It's LeBron James and the executive Lynn Merritt, who has risen alongside LeBron James. He is the guy. I don't think Nike can really market Steph because LeBron's still there. And I think it's that simple. I think it doesn't fit for that reason. I don't see how it's done.
You know, what's interesting about that to me is like, as somebody who, I'm in the upper quadrant of people who would be interested in what Steph and a potential Nike thing would do, or what LeBron is doing with Nike, or the just Nike's basketball business. I'm somebody who's like thoroughly interested. I don't really think they're doing that much in terms of the LeBron business.
Mm,
Like at this point, it doesn't feel like it's this omnipresent
no,
thing. Not
no.
anymore. And whatever, he's 48 years old or whatever the hell he is, right?
Yeah.
Like the idea that they would be marketing him as if it was 2012 wouldn't make sense. But
There's
to
nobody
what you're
else.
s- to what you're saying though, there is a certain level of property ownership that
IP.
happens at these brands, and you do wonder if Steph could come in and they could treat the Steph business the way it deserves to be treated, because it would potentially step on toes. I just think Nike would be in dereliction of their duties if they didn't pursue the Steph. Like, that's crazy to me. And they've never really done, not in the basketball business, a come back home. Like, they didn't bring Duncan back, they didn't bring KG back, they didn't bring a bunch of guys back who ended up leaving. But I think you'd be crazy not to try to get into the Steph Curry business. That's
Mm.
insane to me.
I I mean, I'm fine doing branded merch. Steph, House of Strauss. I will put a bid on that now that it's open season and all of this. As it would be a dereliction of duty for Nike not to explore this, it would be a dereliction of duty for me not to have Teutonio World after I slandered him to not take a question from Buck superfan Teutonio World trying to kill off Steph's career now that Giannis is on a really good rhythm at right now and piling up the stats. Into the
I'm
floor.
praising him. I'm praising him. It was marvelous. Now it's over. So let's say Steph goes to Nike,
Yeah.
right? Like, so 20 years ago, that might be a black and white commercial. Steph Curry in the gym by himself, shooting threes, music behind. Why do I still shoot? I'm still great. There would be some narrative, some dope, well produced trailer that would establish for the fans that hey, this guy may not win the title this year, but we like this guy. There's beauty in the struggle, all this kind of stuff. Like, aside from that, I mean, I'm far too much of an old head to think all these shoes aren't just ugly regardless. So like on the sneaker part, like whatever. But honestly, like for the average middle-aged sports fan, what would it like? Who cares what? I don't know that other people who aren't in sneaker culture really care at all about the shoes, aside from the marketing aspect. Nike used to do so great on not just, as you just said, not just the top three guys, but the top 15. Like the best example of this was whatever that Air Force commercial was, where they're all hooping in a hangar, and it's
Yeah.
like LeBron. It's like,
I can't sing, but
yes,
yeah, whatever the rap song was. I don't know.
the final. Well, I'll think of it in a minute. It was a remix of something else, and it's like Amari Stoudemire, and it's Steve Nash, and I
Yep.
think it's Kid, and it's like 20 guys hooping in a it's Dipset, right? Well, whatever it was. So I guess my question is, and for those who like, what would it even, does it matter anymore? Do sneaker commercials even matter in that way as far as the narrative building experience?
Well,
I think when
maybe
you're as rich as Nike, you can make anything matter
I'll
for a
read this.
Second
moment.
comment.
Let me read a headline. Let me read a headline right here.
Go
This
ahead.
is a little interjection, a little rebuttal, because I think he's getting at something. I really think he's getting at something, which is that sneaker culture, what's happened is almost an indictment of sneaker culture. It's indicative of the fall. But at the same time, what do you make of this? The sleek, light, armory blue Kobe 6 Protro. I can't even pronounce this.
Protro.
Featuring a snakeskin pattern and neon blue Nike swooshes, launched at 10 a.m. Wednesday with a price tag of $200, sold out in less than 24 hours. Now, why did they sell out? Why did that happen, these shoes? It's Caitlin Clark. She's wearing those shoes. So, what do
I
you make
don't.
of that?
I don't think. I mean, Nike will play a lot of games with inventory to produce a headline like that. In terms of they'll just
You
not
don't
put out
buy
a
it.
lot.
You don't think
No, I don't think
she's
that's
selling like
just. I don't think
hotcakes.
that. No, I don't think that was a mass. I don't think that was a mass produced shoe like like they're gonna do with some Jordans on Black Friday and another pair on Christmas that sells 2 million pairs. I bet you it was probably like 10,000 pairs. And to me, Steph is a Kobe figure, like straight up. Like you can, if you put out 20,000 Steph Curry Nikes, them things are gonna sell out. And it's not just gonna be like, because I think with the Kobe's, there's a lot of Kobe people mixed in with the sneaker devotion. But I think mostly it's Kobe. And I think with Steph, like he has people that love him. And I think like another part of it is price point. Like if you price Steph Curry sneakers the same level that you do LeBron's.
We got like a sound right there. I don't know why the sound was coming through, but continue. This is a good point. Continue.
If you do that with if you price Steps at like a 140, 130, parents are gonna buy these things for kids, and Steph fans are gonna buy them for themselves. I don't know. I think it's a no-brainer. I think Steph might demand a certain kind of deal that Nike probably is like, oh, maybe we're not in the business of, we don't have the capability of doing that. But I think Steph Curry he's a singular type of athlete. He's not a Giannis. He's not a Ja sneakers are still selling, by the way.
Yep.
He's not a Devin Booker. He's not a Donovan Mitchell. Like I'm just naming you NBA guys who have their own shoe. Like, like, bruh, I would say like 10% of NBA fans are even aware that Donovan Mitchell has a shoe because he's Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah.
Like but Steph Curry, that's just a different proposition.
I feel like people don't get killed over sneaker releases anymore. I might be wrong about it. I haven't looked into it.
No, well, that's partly because Nike moved. I actually did a story about this when I was at the Athletic. It's partly because Nike moved the model away from in-person drops. They moved it to the internet. They moved it to you better hire a bot army in order to get a ticket to buy it online and have it mailed to you. And so that kind of and that was kind of the impetus. People getting robbed and stabbed and shot at Jordan releases.
True or false? True or false? It would be a little bit funny if that was happening over the Caitlin Clark releases. True or false? A little bit. I'm not saying I want it to happen. But
If young black kids was dying in the hood over Caitlin Clark, yes.
She had to release a statement begging people to stop the violence. I'm glad it's not happening, to be clear. I don't want to be glib about these matters. Sorry. Just had to interject because you know what it was? I started smiling thinking about it, and I felt like I had to say something. Otherwise, it looked really bad as you were talking about these.
Oh my God. Yeah. I hate when they make Caitlin Clark do woke statements in public, but if somebody died buying her sneakers, she might, especially if it was in like DC or Baltimore or something, like a really black city.
My shoes aren't worth this, please. I like we'll get Joe Titty talking into your soon, but I like Teutonia's idea of how you would market it if you were Nike. I was thinking, let me pitch this. Let me do my Whedon and Kennedy, Wyden and Kennedy, however I'm supposed to pronounce that. I feel like what you would do, you would have an ad, you'd have a misdirection where it sounded like Steph is coming home to Charlotte. And it's all you're depicting all the news about it, and all these people in the Bay Area are scared, and Steve Kerr is worried. And it's actually the reveal at the end is he's not coming home to the Hornets. He's coming home to Nike, and it's a depiction of the relief. That's what I would depict right now.
Hey! I like that, but Giannis, I totally was. I'm totally good for. We can do that. We can do that reveal, but it's just he stays in Milwaukee. We can do the next. We can have Spike Lee. We can have De Niro. We can have
Rollins.
Like
we'll put Rollins in the commercial.
Yeah, the problem is your guy doesn't want to end the flirtation with his whole 1 foot in, 1 foot out.
Hey, well, I mean, ask Aisha. Some people like to flirt.
Giannis is married to Milwaukee, but he's not dead. Okay, let's get Mr. Titty, Mr. Joe Titty up here. It is funny to pronounce your last name, and I apologize for that. I know you've been hearing it your whole life. You're on mute, though. We got to unmute you.
You got to unmute yourself, brother.
Okay, yeah, now we got it with your lovely accent. Let's hear it.
Yeah, I already managed to stuff up the microphone situation before. My bad, fellas. But
good.
Ethan, you should explain why my last name's so funny to say. I've never heard that before.
We'll leave that one unexplained. A little bit of mystery. What is your question, sir?
Good. Well, it's probably kind of similar in a way to Teutonia's. I'm thinking like, I don't know, 20 years ago, we would have had some sort of recipe in mind for like what sells a sneaker, right? And, the most popular athlete in the sport being the endorser would have been a huge part of like the pie.
Yeah.
Has your understanding of that pie or the recipe that makes a sneaker sell, has it changed in light of this? Because like, I love Curry. He is him and Jokic are my favorite guys, but I get why Jokic doesn't have an appeal. But Curry, we know everyone loves him, So has the recipe changed? Or is it just the conditions that, the sneaker business exists in that's changed, and that's the bigger factor?
Yes, I think it's changed, but this is why I love this topic. The alchemy of not just stardom, but mimetic stardom. Why somebody like Jokic will be popular, but nobody will try to be like him. Nike's trying that right now with Wemby, the alien, but I don't know if the kids really want to be like the alien. I think part of what's happened, and maybe Waz would disagree, I think that sports are just less popular with kids. I think when we were kids, there wasn't as much out there. And so a major athlete was a culturally influential figure in a way that it's just not today. And I'll ask my kid this. It's a sample size of one, but I'll say, hey, do you guys talk about the big athletes in elementary school on the schoolyard? And he was saying to me, no, we don't really talk about that stuff. That doesn't really get brought up in kid world. That's not really what we talk about. I mean, we all like Steph. If they're aware at all about basketball, they like Steph. Mm-hmm. That's the only player that my son has asked me to introduce him to. I can't explain to him that Steph's a good guy, but I feel like I annoyed him just doing my job. So I don't know if I can facilitate that kind of thing. And I really don't want to try it. But that's a bit of a digression.
You absolutely could, but
a bit of a digression.
Maybe save it for a birthday or something.
But frankly, he doesn't want it bad enough, Waz. And that's what I'm talking about. He wants it. But if this was similar situation in 1997, he would just be begging me every day for that. Instead, it's, hey, can you hook that up for me, Dad? And I go, man, not really. And I was like, okay, cool. Can you buy me a Minecraft thing? And I go, okay, if you earn it, we'll see.
Dude, if I thought my dad could introduce me to Kendall Gill in 1997, I'd have been up his ass about it. I swear to God. Okay. So let alone one of my heroes like a J Kidd or Gary Payton, not even to speak of Jordan or something like that. Like these guys were demigods. It's funny, man. Like since I started my new job and I'm working with these NBA players on a day-to-day, And Paul Pierce is even explaining to me, he's like the first time like I stepped on the court and I was playing against GP or Gary Payton, he was like, oh, he's like, bro, I'm like, oh shit, like that's
Mm,
Gary Payton right there. Like
yeah.
that's Jason Kidd right there. Like he's like, these motherfuckers had an aura, they had a glow to them, and that's a guy who made it to the NBA feeling that way. But another thing that he said, his youngest, is hooping or whatever, but he's like, I'm not pushing it on him. He's got to show me that he's like super obsessed with it like I was.
Yeah.
And I think there's something to that, but I think the companies with money can put things in front of everybody. I think the thing that has changed with Nike is not really the public. The public has changed, although the public's relationship to sports has changed, especially on the younger demographic. I think their business has changed and they became such a Jordan retro Air Max 95 retro, Air Max 97 retro, Air Max 90. They became such a retro focused business and they became such an incredibly successful business. That's another thing that people don't realize. Like before the Jordan retro and the retro Nike business took off, Nike was a rich company, but like they weren't making all of this money hand over fist. This is a new existence. We've always thought of Nike as this omnipresent, incredibly cool brand. But like basically before 2007, 2008, that's 30 years into the company's existence. They weren't this insanely profit making machine that they became,
Mm.
which they became on the backs of these just re-releasing their classic sneakers, especially the Jordan brand. And so I think that does something to a company when you become this thing, when you started out as this thing that's constantly just selling excellence to people. Basically, we sign the best athletes and we make the very best footwear to we're selling nostalgia constantly to
Yeah.
you. I think that disrupts your own business. It disrupts your own identity. And I think that more than anything is why we don't think Nike can produce a sick ass Steph Curry campaign. It's because they really haven't had to. Like their business doesn't live and die on that
Mm.
anymore because
Mhm.
they found this fucking well that just prints money all the time.
Well, I think you see this all over culture where the marketing of nostalgia is deeper than you would think, and it can go on for longer than what you might think because we're used to these life cycles of generations where older generation dies, new generation replaces it. But these baby boomers are living
They
long.
refuse to die. Jesus Christ.
The millennials, they're just gonna be there a while buying Jordan stuff. So you don't necessarily need to re-rack it. You don't. It makes things a little strange. It makes it feel like we have a very stuck culture, as we can see in so many different places. But you're right. You don't need new fodder for all of this. But to what Joseph is saying, I also don't even know if you need the mimetic models. It's an adorable cat that was
Big
has.
cat.
Lovely cat. I don't know if you need the mimetic models to even be great in basketball. People say LaMelo. The kids like LaMelo. Does he need to be great? I don't
His
know.
sneakers sell way more than they deserve to.
Sophie Cunningham, I just saw she was at whatever golf event Caitlin Clark was at. I think she hit a golf ball right into the crowd. I don't think she's the greatest of WNBA players, but she's got some sort of something as a good looking blonde woman with a personality.
Hmm.
She's marketable. So I
Yep.
don't even know if the traditional way we used to do this, where you had to be the best at your sport to be marketable, I don't even know if that's necessarily the case. It's all kablooey. It's all weird now.
Is, is Steph less marketable than I think he is? Because to me, he's sort of almost like this platonic ideal of an endorser. Is there something I don't get?
No, I think no. I think he's extremely marketable. I like. I don't know that there have been more marketable people
Mm.
in the NBA than Steph.
Yeah.
I think he's their most marketable player of
Right.
anything.
So it's like the dog that does not bark is the shoe that does not sell, you know? Like,
So
why not?
He's
his Under
selling.
Armour business sold. It did. Relative to his peers, Steph Curry's sneaker business is a huge business. It's just the nature of his contract with Under Armour was not just we sell shoes here. He was like kind of like we need to be selling shoes and apparel and this and you need to be able to help us to sell other athletes and it's not that. But in terms of Steph Curry's sneaker business, definitely makes money. And I
Right.
think
I think
taking that business anywhere else would like people would be happy with his sneaker business.
from what I have been told, part of the problem was that in the boom times, they took this Steph Curry bonanza and they devoted the resources in the places they shouldn't have. Where Kevin Plank, he never really counted in this whole Steph Curry thing. They were just looking to get an athlete here or there. Next thing you know, Kent Bazemore, which was about the only level of athlete in
That's so
basketball
crazy.
that UA could get,
That's so
convinced
crazy.
his friend Steph Curry to come along to Nike. And it's not like they were ready for this. It's not like they were ready for this. And it was almost like these stories you read where somebody wins the lottery, they blow all the money because they weren't in the world of making money. They didn't know how to
Exactly.
handle it. It's almost like the Sacramento Kings hitting on a draft pick. They're not going to do anything with the draft pick. They're not going to do anything with it. So
Listeners
They'll
won't
trade it to the
recognize your
Pacers.
Sacramento shade, but Ethan is right.
yeah. So this guy who's a college football guy, that's what he does. That's what he's about. This company's his baby. Suddenly, this company is not known for him. Kevin Plank was the biggest Under Armour guy before Steph Curry. It was all about Kevin Plank. Now it's Steph Curry. Now it's NBA. What do they do with the money? They slap their name on all these different college programs across the country as though that's going to do something. And it didn't really do anything. They weren't set up to really do this when they were up and coming. They didn't have the infrastructure to do it. And so I don't think it's a story about how Steph can't move units. I think it's a story about how the company he signed with didn't really know how to move units with a guy who could move units. And now they divorce. Now they break up. And that's what it is. But it is,
But
it's something. Yeah.
well, take it. Look, I mean, I don't know it, but he's not Jordan, right? He's not like he's not
Nobody.
moving
Nobody
units
is
like Jordan.
Jordan.
Nobody's
Is he?
Mike.
Is he? He's
Nobody's
not
like
Kobe.
literally nobody is Jordan. I think he's Kobe level.
You think he's Kobe?
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Yes. Yes.
So does his business do as well as Kobe?
It's hard to say
Kobe's
because Kobe was with
business-
Nike, you know.
Kobe's sneaker business was very successful in terms of the signature athlete space. It wasn't Jordan, but it was on par with LeBron, certainly. Maybe not LeBron at its peak, maybe not LeBron from 2009 to say 2013, but like Kobe consistently sold sneakers. He was great sneaker business. That's why they're still in business with his estate to this day. And I think Steph Curry is absolutely at that level
And I'll just say
of pitch
this:
man.
this is more of an aesthetic designation, so people can disagree. Kobe's shoes look so much better than Steph's shoes. Kobe's
Well,
shoes,
yeah.
they're just way better.
Yes.
shoes.
I
They
mean,
look
but
so much better.
it's hard to divorce Kobe from the shoe because Kobe was so influential with the players, man. Like, players absolutely adore this guy. And he started a trend of low top basketball sneakers. And like, that became the standard. Like, at best, people will make mids now. But the low top became the standard because Kobe pioneered it. Kobe was like, yo, I was watching, some soccer film and I'm watching these guys' agility and I'm like, I need to be that agile. They don't wear high top sneakers. The soccer cleats or boots or whatever we want to call them, they're low top. they're right at or below the ankle. I need my shit to be like that. And he convinced Nike to make him a low top shoe. And because Kobe is just seen as I don't even know how to explain it, man. He's almost like what Milton Friedman is to fucking free markets. Kobe is to basketball, like straight up to these dudes. He's like an oracle to these guys. And the players, they started telling Nike, I don't want any of your other sneakers, the non-signature guys. They were like, put me in Kobe's. I want Kobe's. That's what I want to hoop in. Kobe believes in this low top concept. I believe in the low top concept. Like this shit was antithetical to everything we've ever known about what sneakers should be. But I think you can't divorce that from who Kobe is to the basketball community. And so, yeah, like it's just, I think it's just easier to make a low top sneaker look pleasing to the eye. It's just less shoe. And that's why Kobe wins.
Points well made. Thanks so much, Joe. Ezra in the chat says, did the Nico Harrison combo happen already? We did so much on this business
Let's get
story.
into it.
Let's end on Nico. I was going to throw up Kirk Henderson just blaming Nico on the way out, but I don't think we have time for playing that, even if it's good content. And I think Charles Barkley was defending Nico to a degree. This is an interesting ouster, even if it all makes sense. I find it interesting just because it feels like the fans did it. Unless you've been living under a rock, or if you have been living under a rock, Nico Harrison traded Luka Doncic. Maybe you heard of that. And finally this week, he was fired, and it felt as though he was fired not because the Mavericks brass was going, this season's not working, we need a new direction. It's that the fans just would not let it continue, that they were chanting fire Nico at not just Mavericks games, but any sort of game in the greater Dallas area or all over Texas. And so they had to do it. And I don't know if this is a new phenomenon or if this was just a unique circumstance, this particular trade that is never going to be repeated. The question I ask people and the passionate argument I have over it is whose fault? Who gets most of the blame? Is it Dumont, the new owner, or is it the guy he's fired and fed to the wolves, the blood sacrifice, Nico Harrison? You can go with that, or you can take this any direction you want.
Who gets the blame? I mean, it's got to be Nico Harrison in the sense that this was his brainchild. Like he invented this as a thought. The thought that you would move on from Luka Doncic didn't exist before Nico Harrison implanted it into his owner's brains. Now, you can say the owners should be competent enough to be like, not only are we saying no to this, we're firing you. If you think this, like, you don't deserve to be our GM anymore. This is such a pick whichever R word you want to use. Pick whichever one. This is such a terrible idea. But I think, like, how do you not blame Nico for this? Like,
it's a matter of perspective. I've got a friend who passionately, angrily says to me, it's ownership, it's ownership, it's ownership. But
it is ownership, but like,
but we're
these
NBA
people
guys.
Are not NBA people.
We're NBA guys. Our perspective is that's the GM. Our perspective is
the GM.
The owner doesn't know anything. They're not supposed to know anything.
First of all, Ethan, let's just say, because the reporting indicates that Nico is the one who took it to the owners, not the opposite way. Let's just say it was the opposite way. The job of the GM is to throw his body in front of that.
Yeah.
Like, no. Yeah, I will die.
Quit if you do this.
You need to fire me before we do that move that you just proposed. So, no, it's the GM, man. Like, you are the top basketball person within the organization. Miriam Adelson and her son-in-law, bro, really? We're laying this at their feet? Really?
That haircut is stupid. I think that is a problem for Dumont. But yeah, Ezra was saying, you want to ask if the Nico Harrison discussion is also dividing along racial lines. I would say It would if the Mavericks were doing a little bit better. If they were doing a little bit better, we could get a good
And
race war
Luca was
going.
doing a little bit worse.
Yeah, we get a good race war going. But
Oh, I've seen people try to do this where like Nico's getting hell because he's black. I'm
I mean,
sorry, guys. Like, I'm black and I would love to take it there, but like, this is just objectively one of the most horrible moves anybody has ever done. However, and I do think it's my job whenever I'm talking about this to bring a broader context. Luka Doncic,
it's
at the
fact.
time of the trade,
Yeah.
was due a $350 million extension this summer. I mean, excuse me, this summer that just passed. So the summer of 2025, he was due that extension. This is new ownership. They just paid billions for the team. Their GM is explaining to them, we cannot get this guy to do anything. Nothing. They can't talk Luka into anything. Not a training regimen, not a diet regimen, not a anything that the best players we spent the hour talking about Steph Curry.
Yeah.
You want to talk about putting the work in?
Yeah.
My fucking God, dude. There's never been anybody more dedicated. Okay? Like, this man is dedicated to his job
Such a good point.
in a maniacal way.
I've never seen anybody standing around Luca in awe of whatever like training
What he
performance.
does to prepare for work, okay? Luka Doncic was the diametric opposite. This motherfucker did nothing. And, because he's basically like some child prodigy, he's been excellent at hoops since he was 13 years old. And he's known that. He just has it in him. This excellence is innate to his fucking nature. He's never had to do anything. Not to say he never worked on his game, but this shit just comes so natural to him. The idea that these suits would come and tell him how to be better than what he's already doing, which is 30 points, 9 assists, 9 rebounds, which again, unprecedented to Luka's credit. But like, if you're coming at it from the bosses, and we can't talk this guy into anything related to hard work, dedication, and sacrifice, and then we give him $350 million,
which
and
is
then we're
how
supposed to
it
expect him
works.
to do it after,
Which is how I understand if you don't know basketball, you
that
can't
seems
process
insane.
it. But it's this industry. It's what I wrote about in my book at the end, that they got dragged through hell by Kevin Durant. And when he left, they were put in the position of hoping they could get dragged to hell by somebody like this, because that's what you're going for. What you are going for as a GM or an owner, and all your power, your vision, your leadership, your little mantras, your little slogans, whatever it is to have some guy in his 20s just make you his bitch and boss you around and not have any real power to get him to do anything, because that's how important he is to this
That's
franchise.
how important the guy is.
And it's unusual you have somebody like Steph who had to scrape and scrap a bit to get to that mantle. I bet Steph has thought, or did early in his career, I could lose my job. I've seen Chris Paul give speeches to guys at camps about how his perspective on the league is that this amount of draft picks enter the league, this amount of guys get flushed out, and I've got to keep my job and do everything possible to keep my job. To what you're saying, do you think Luka ever thought once about losing his job?
No. And I have it on personal authority. No, sorry, not personal authority, because he didn't say it to me. But I have it on pretty good. I could say this is true. They are still steaming about it, the Luka camp. They still can't believe they were this opportunity for $350 million guaranteed was taken from them by Nico Harrison. Like, don't believe for a second that he would have gotten skinny this summer after getting through. No, that was all revenge. That was all spite. This whole season, this whole campaign is a spite to Nico Harrison and his disbelief in Luka Doncic as a worker, as a player, as a franchise guy. And again, Nico Harrison made the worst trade possible, but like from like I'm talking about his monkey ass crew, his monkey operation that he had for a training crew, which is like some dudes that he met back when he was at Real Madrid in Spain. These are not trainers. These are just buddies of his from fucking Madrid. That was his training team. Like when he came back from injury, Ethan, part of his rehab with his training team on the practice facility, he's coming back from injury to start last season. Remember, he was like hurt, fucked up, and he's doing his ramp up. They were playing ping pong on the practice facility court. This is shit that happened. So, again, Luka is one of the greatest players I've ever witnessed. But if you're in charge of that franchise, and this is what you're watching on a day-to-day, it takes the superstar petulance to a bit, I don't want to say extreme, but Luka is ridiculous. And people, and whatever, I don't care. I'm not afraid to say it. You know, we on with Ethan right now. We got to give it to the people. People will mention his off-court habits. That's a euphemism for drinking.
Yeah.
I won't say Luka Doncic is the only person in the NBA who drinks. What I will say, I bet he's in the top 10.
I love how he's so good at basketball that he's clearly out of shape and it's affecting his work. Michael Finley takes the beer out of his hand and the reaction is, "You can't do that. What are you doing?" Taking a guy's beer.
I'm telling you.
Unbelievable.
If you were working with this guy, and again, it's not to say Luka's not a dick to people, but the second you try to get him to do something different from what he wants to do, you're going to catch hell. And that's what they were dealing with in there. And I really don't think Luka ever gets in shape with the Mavericks. Just like I don't think Ja Morant changes his work habits in Memphis. I don't think Trae Young becomes a less shot, addicted, whatever. Yeah. Like I don't think Joel Embiid, like when you anoint somebody the fucking boy prince of your franchise from the time that he's 20 years old, and that's all you feed him. All everybody in that organization does is fondle this fucking kid's nuts whenever they're in his fucking presence. And you do that for fucking years on end. The idea that you're going to talk him into doing something difficult or something that he doesn't feel like he wants to do, I don't think that it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. And so as much as Nico made a horrible trade, I don't think Luka Doncic changes his stripes in Dallas. I think he does continue with the horrible habits. I don't think he ever gets in shape. And I ultimately don't think he reaches his potential.
Well, I think what we learned is I think it would be enough for the Mavericks fans. I think most fan bases would rather have the superstar not
fair.
optimizing.
That is fair.
Versus whatever the hell they're going to get going. Lucky for them, though. Stacked draft class. Stacked draft class.
You got Cooper Flag already. The
time
future's not that grim.
Good time to suck. Great show, everybody. Great comments. Great questions. Thanks so much to Waz. Waz, you've got a new operation to plug.
Yeah, man. I'm hosting a brand new podcast with Paul Pierce and Danny Green. It's called No Fouls Given. Wherever you get your podcast, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, we're on there. You know, we try to have candid conversations about the league from a player perspective and try to have fun as well. And so, yeah, go check that out wherever you get your podcast. And yeah, big up to Zoran Mamdani.
Tony wanted us to talk about that. I'm going, I don't live in New York City. I can't talk about Mamdani every time
I'm a New York guy. I mean, there's nothing to talk about. He's got to become mayor. He's got to fail or succeed. and then we could talk about those when they happen. But at this point, there's nothing to talk about.
Lena Khan on random offense next week. That will be I don't know. Okay. Thanks, everybody. See ya.